Hello, Gavin Hoey here with another Photoshop tutorial for you. Today I'm going to show you how to make these real painted border effects using Photoshop. Now to make this painted look, I'm not going to be using any of Photoshop filters. I'm not even going to be using any of Photoshop's standard brushes. But we are going to be using a brush. In fact, I'm going to create our very own customized paintbrush and then paint the border on with that. Okay, so let's go back a step to this image. Now this is the picture that I'm going to use to make my painted border edge. Now what I've done here is just grab a piece of A4 white paper and just paint a black splodge through the middle and a few sort of splodgy lines around it. It's kind of my modern art. But what it makes is a wonderful customized brush. So how do you go from this to a paintbrush? Well, you've got a couple of steps to do. First of all, we need to get rid of the parts we don't want. For example, I don't like this bit on the left and on the right where it all goes a bit soft and fuzzy, and I don't want the fuzzy bit underneath either. So what I'm going to do is to get the crop tool and just crop those areas away like so. I don't need all that bit at the top either, so we'll bring that down so we don't clip the top of the brushing effect, but we don't have anything extra we don't really need. Okay, that looks pretty good. When you're happy, click the tick or double click inside, and that'll crop your image down. We're still not quite ready to make this into a paintbrush because what we want is a pure white edge along the top and a pure black along the bottom. Now at the moment we haven't got that, it's all kind of shades of grey. So let's go to the levels, image, adjustment and levels, and we'll have a look on the graph and we can see that we've got really nothing at all at the black end and not much at the white end either. So if I bring these sliders in, if I bring the black slider in, you'll see the blacks get darker. Similarly, if I bring the light white slider in, the whites get brighter, like so. The middle slider you can use to just try and even things up, so I keep that nice tones going through the kind of stroke area there. It doesn't go completely blocked up black. When you're happy, click OK. And now we're ready to make this into a paintbrush. And we do that by going to Edit and choosing Define Brush Preset, which is just here. But you'll notice it's greyed out. I can't actually do it. Now why is that? Well, there is a good reason for it. Photoshop has a maximum brush size of 2,500 pixels. Anything smaller is fine, anything bigger, it won't let you do anything with it. Quite annoying that, but not to worry. We can resize this image down, image and image size. You can see at the moment it's 3,246 pixels on its longest side. Let's change that to 2,500 pixels on its longest side. And if we go back to edit, well, look at that. Isn't that lucky? Define Brush Preset is now available. Wonderful. Let's give it a name that will mean something. So we'll call this one Border Brush number 1. There we go. And that's it. You've now made your very own customized border paintbrush. Okay, let's turn that off and we won't save it. It's all done. And we'll go back to our starting picture, which is the picture I want to put my border effect onto. So let's do that right now. First of all, I'm going to make a layer. I'm going to make an empty layer to put my border on. You don't have to, but I always think if you can separate out each part of your picture, it'll give you maximum control, and you'll see that as we get towards the end of this tutorial. Next, we need to fill this new layer with black. Now at the moment I've got white as my foreground color, so I'm going to swap that to black, and then we'll go to Edit and Fill. Now I need to swap back to white and get a paintbrush and actually find my new paintbrush, which should be the last one on my brush list. There it is, we can see it there, and that'll be the border brush. So all I need to do now is just to come down and paint white down here, like so. And you can see our brush, there it is, it looks exactly like we left it, although it's now white of course, because we've got white as our foreground colour. It doesn't quite get to the edge of the picture, so I'm just going to move that to about there somewhere. Okay, that's great. Now all I need to do is just do this around the other 3 sides. But the trouble is, of course, paintbrushes are only ever one way up. So if I want to paint up here somewhere, it doesn't really work. It's the wrong way round. So how do we get over that little hurdle? Well, what we do is to go to the brush palette. Now if you can't see that, press F5 on your keyboard and you'll get to the brush palette. Make sure you're working on the brush tip shape. And when you see down here, this little sort of circle thing, that's what's going to allow us to turn our brush around. If I grab this little pointer, looks like a compass really, and at the moment it's pointing east. But if I grab the pointer and make it point south, like so, let's try and get it perfectly south would be good, there we go, then my brush turns on its side. Now, it doesn't actually face south, so that's a bit confusing, but hey, there you go, you can't have everything, I guess. And we'll just click over here on the left-hand side and add a bit of border in over there. Now, let's go back to our little compass again, and we'll rotate this around so it faces west. Here's a neat little tip. If you hold the Shift key, you'll find it'll actually snap much easier, so it points either north, south, east, or west. Otherwise, it can be slightly off. And I'm running out of room, so let me just close that down a second, and we'll just paint a border there. And of course, we haven't quite got room at the edges, so we'll just zoom out a little bit and put a bit in there. Lovely. There we go. And then back to my brushes again, and we'll once again rotate that compass so it's facing north. And that should allow me to do, yes it does, the right-hand side. Okay, so there we are. We now have this really nice painted border effect. You can see it looking very good. It's all very organic because, of course, it really is a real paintbrush. Now, all we need to do is to bring our image back through. And we do that by going to the layers and finding our brush layer, which is the one we've just painted on. Change the blend mode of that one from normal to screen. Now, the reason we used black as the fill color earlier, because screen makes anything black transparent. There you go. So now you can see clean through the picture and you can see this lovely border effect around the edge. Of course, you can play around with your border a little bit. You can try dropping the opacity down a wee bit like so to get a semi-transparent effect. Or you can even try changing the blend modes to something like difference to get a very different look. I think I'm just going to stick to the normal screen one at the moment. Now, that brush will stay inside of Photoshop for, well, as long as you keep your brushes. But it's a good idea to save your customized brush just in case your computer crashes or you accidentally delete it, or perhaps you want to share it with someone else. So how do you save your customized brushes? Well, you do that by going up to the little brush icon on your options bar when you have your brush tool selected, and clicking the down arrow, and then there's another arrow to the right hand side. And then from the list you find Preset Manager. Cool, get there in the end. Now you've got to decide what preset type. Now we're changing brushes, so let's change it from tools to brushes. And there's a list of all my brushes I currently have installed. Here's my new brush, and if I click it, it becomes active. And now the Save Set button has appeared as well. And all I need to do is to click Save Set and give it a name. So we'll call this one New Border Brush Set, like so, and click Save. And it'll save my new brush as a set. And in the future, if I need to reload them, I can just come back to Load, and I can find it up here, New Border Brush Set. I can load it in from there. So there you go. There's your very own customized brush saved for future use.